Hey everyone, here we continue on with our letter from Pliny the Younger to Tacitus describing the death, and now we're finally at the death of his uncle, his maternal uncle Pliny the Elder. So this is page 263 of Richard Lafleur's Wheelock's Latin Reader, and we are starting at Annexus Cerulis, Duobus, which puts us at line 185, 186. So in Nixus, this is going to be a perfect passive participle. That looks right. And then we need to look up the verb. So it's initor, which is a combination of in plus nitor. Nitor is to press upon, or press, to push. So this is to press upon something. And this is, as you can see, deponent. So initor, initi, and then it'll be inixus sum is the effectively third principal part. That's the perfect passive in form but active in meaning. I leaned upon. So what we have here is having leaned upon. So it looks passive, but it has an active meaning, and this in triggers ablative objects. So to duobus, modifying ser release. So that's a long is. This is the kind of standard bus ending we're used to from dative ablative plurals in the third declension. But note that we have an O here, and why is that? Well, that's because duo is a kind of special word. Most numbers in Latin, from I guess 4 up, don't decline. If you want to say 5, or let's say 6, we've seen this already. 6. If I'm going to lean on 6 servants, we're going to have sex for 6 there, or quinque for 5. But when we're down in these lower numbers, 2 has its own special declension. It's actually what's known as a dual. This is an old case system, kind of number system that Proto-Indo-European had, where there was a singular, a dual, and a plural, so more than 2. But you'd have a special conjugate or special declension for things that come in 2s, like eyes and oxen, and a few things like that. We lose that in almost everything else of the language, but we maintain it in this obus and duobus. It's dual because you can see the literal etymological connection between these two words. So we keep the dual for this. This is the dative ablative dual ending obus. But that's more than you needed to know. I'm just trying to explain why that's not duibus. It doesn't look like that, which we would expect from a third declension dative ablative plural. So here we have leaning on, having leaned on, 2 servants, ad surrexit. So this is, again, we've seen this in a few different forms, the verb surgo, and where we're adding ad to it, moving up toward. So leaning up, I'm not sure exactly how to best translate this. So having leaned on the 2, he got up, kind of moved toward them, and immediately, statim, we've seen that before, concidit, collapsed. So we had here a perfect participle. I'd say passive, and indeed it kind of looks passive. It's passive in form, but it has active meaning because it's deponent. So both of those are in kind of scare quote parentheses, but really we're looking at a deponent verb there, nitor, as we saw. So having leaned upon 2 servants, he got up and immediately collapsed. As ego, I collect, as I've been able to put together, is the sense here from Pliny, because of course Pliny the Younger is not there. He's at home the next day, maybe still working on that writing exercise. So who is he getting this information from? Well, perhaps, as Lafleur points out, from these 2 servants. They were certainly there. Then we get a long and very frustrating string of ablatives. Crassiore caligine, spiritu obstructu, clausoque stomaco. Great. Well, the one thing that we can do almost certainly is put this que into an and here. So we can now say, well, we can separate at least part 1 and part 2 here. So we've got pairs of adjectives and nouns. Crassiore is dense, heavier, and that can work with this gas, vapor, caligo. So this is caligo, and the nominative caliginus. And this is going to be therefore a third declension noun. So with a denser vapor, with spirit, and that is breath, or means of breath. We saw animus earlier, but this is, again, when we think of what animates us, what is our spirit, all this closely related to breathing for the Romans. Obstructo, so we know what that means, having been blocked. So with the denser fog, with the spirit having been blocked, and with his stomach, stomachus, in this case, as Lafleur points out, it's really his esophagus that has been closed up. So we have obstructo working with spiritu, that's our noun. You can tell it's our noun because it's fourth declension long U there. So we've got all of these ablatives going on. What do? Well, we know the que is going to connect clauso stomacho, maybe call that B, with spiritu obstructo, and that's going to be what we can call A. We don't have an et here. We don't have a que after spiritu. So crassiore caligine is going to have to be a slightly different kind of ablative. This is going to be an ablative of means explaining the obstructo. How is his breath obstructed? Well, it's obstructed by because of the denser vapors in the air, the sulfuric air that he's breathing. And maybe that's also why the esophagus was kind of clamming up, right? So we have the easiest thing to do is see that the crassiore caligine is referring to something outside of Pliny the Elder's body, while the spiritu and the stomacho are both related to him, and they are obstructed and closed off by means of the denser vapor. Qui. So here we have, it's definitely nominative and it's definitely masculine, but it could be singular or plural. So we could either take this with spiritus or more directly as it will be with stomachus, or both, really, because we could have all of this be nominative, masculine, plural. So which to him, natura, so natura could be the nominative subject of erat, but we see later on that we have a angustus. This is a first, second declension adjective, clearly masculine, singular, nominative. So natura is not going to be our subject here. This is going to be an ablative. So by nature, and this is, as we saw in class the other day, a dative singular. So which to him, by nature, was invalid, not strong. When we say, be well in Latin, we say vale, be strong. In validus is saying, not strong, invalid, sickly, and angustus, narrow. So all this is kind of clear that we're talking about the stomachus, the esophagus. So this esophagus, which for him, his esophagus, by nature, we might say naturally, was sickly and thin, and so we got these two ands connecting point 1, point 2, and frequenter, which is an adverb, so that can't be point 3. Here we finally have the adjective we need, intereistuans. So eistuans is kind of warm, hot, sickly, and inter is going to kind of mean that this is inflamed, what we call inflammation. So we use this Latin word flaming where there's really no fire there, but there is this idea of heat, and that's what the eistua conveys here. So we're saying that he had and Lafleur posits maybe an asthmatic condition, something where his chest and esophagus are going to kind of clam up, especially with the sulfuric air that's around him. We'll pick up the rest of the next sentence in the next section. Yeah, that'll do. See you next time.